Good morning, Darrell.
Good morning, John.
How you doing today?
Good. I kind of woke you up early, huh?
Darrell woke me up today. We work completely different shifts, and
Well, you ended up working later than you planned
I
last
did.
night,
Yeah.
and I was off.
So I heard my phone ringing early this morning. It's like, shoot. That might not be what I said, but anyway, I'm awake now. I was just telling Darrell I'm plowing through the coffee this morning.
Well,
And it seems to be helping.
does it?
So that's a good thing.
I told the lady I didn't want it dirty. I wanted filthy. 3 shots, not 2.
That's a good way to do it, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
wow. Anyway, so hey, so I haven't been together for a week or so, but
Yeah.
it's August.
I tell you what, I woke up in the mountains the other day, and it smelled through the fire and the smoke. It kind of smelled like
A little fall.
a little dewy, just
Nice.
enough that you know how that fall
Yeah.
air changes.
Yes.
So it got me a little excited.
I haven't had
Unfortunately,
that taste yet myself, but
there's some fires going on in Idaho that, unfortunately, but
bound to happen.
yeah,
Honestly, I think we're probably pretty grateful. Hasn't been a long fire season yet. Anyway,
True.
it's
That's
getting closer to fall. So
most of these started. We've had a few in the June-ish, but most of them in the later July. I mean, like that. Some of the bigger ones here
Right.
that we have, and
right. Sometimes they're burning for weeks before
Yeah.
August starts. Even.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
yeah. So hopefully, it doesn't ruin too much habitat.
Yeah.
I mean, it always comes back better.
Right? I know.
But it's hard to foresee that, But
It's heartbreaking.
I've seen it happen too many times where, as long as we don't lose animals, but I've been in some areas a year or two after it burns and actually flew them for season.
Okay.
And the lush, they had good springs and everything, and the
Right.
grass and the elk are just, of course, they stick out like a sore thumb because they're
Exactly.
yellow, and
Right.
especially your first light in the morning. But just littered with them, and
Yeah, that's in this off the elk subject a little bit, but the same thing with that muzzleloader deer hunt that I drew. I know we've talked about it a few times already, but where I hunt those at, where they're rutting, is in these junipers that have burnt, and so you can see through that, and
The
they're just
white
in
butts.
there thick. Yeah, it's so. I mean, there's advantages to burns.
I've always
for
said
sure.
God was in a good mood when He did make deer because He gave him a white butt.
Right. That's no
How
kidding.
many times, if that's all you spotted from a long ways, was just
That white, yeah, exactly. No, 100%. And that sun hits that sometimes in the early morning. It's
Yeah.
like, bam.
And elk, I mean, they stick out.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
But pretty excited. I've been keeping in contact with Mark Carlton from Native By Carlton calls, and our calls, our season hunter logo calls, will
Right.
be here probably next week.
Yeah.
And-
Have we even talked about those? I know we've talked about having some stuff to give away, but did we talk about those specifically? I don't recall.
Well, when we get them in, we will be giving some away. But I mean, and also if you go on the website and put Seasoned Hunter, one word, caps, Seasoned Hunter 20, you'll get 20% off anything that is on their website.
Awesome. So that our calls will be on his website as well? Is that
I think I'm not for sure if he's putting ours on there or not, but
Okay.
I know all of theirs will be. And then, they can get some from us too, as far as because we will have some. I'm not sure. Totally appreciate whatever they do,
right?
and
By far.
and so I'm not sure what all.
Yeah.
It's so busy right now. and
Yeah.
they got a lot of really exciting things coming up in the hopper. Hopefully, some of it will hit this year, but I know next year. I know one thing that Mark and I, last time we chatted, just recently, they've got different size frames, a little more variety of frames. And I was actually talking to a guy earlier today, and he was telling me that the challenge he has with diaphragms is finding the right size frame, and also gals and the younger hunters is the frame size, and so
Okay.
we're going to have smaller frames.
Oh, cool.
We already do have some, but they're I believe it's going to be 3 different sizes is what it is.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it'll help accommodate different pallets.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
And as always, I mean, this tape on this Rip It series, I mean, it's the most durable tape. And I can't tell you, like doing shows and talking to people, how many times they complain about other brands, just the longevity of the tape. I mean, falls apart a lot of times in one hunt. And I've had some people even tell me within a day or two of hunting it falls, because pretty often you just keep it in your mouth. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but this tape, it's the best tape I've, not because we're partnered up with Native and not because I've been a part of them for years, but it's just awesome tape.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I imagine over the years you've used enough different ones to know the difference between a good tape and bad tape.
And when I first put this in my mouth, it is a little bit different feeling, because it is maybe a little bit stiffer, for lack of better words, in there, but it don't take long to adapt to your palate and to your mouth.
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited about getting some of these new frames in, because he's going to be sending us some of different frame size, and he says you may find that, unbeknownst, that a smaller frame actually does fit you better.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting for us to give those a try.
No, I agree.
And then, as always, they got custom calls. There's a big assortment of them. I just brought a few. That
one on next to you with the
ivory.
That is awesome. It's beautiful.
It's been a couple years back. Wayne, when they were going to come out with them, Wayne says, "Send me an ivory." So I sent an ivory, and
so that's your ivory.
Yeah, it's an ivory off a bull I killed, and they have a silversmith that makes the band. I got this one honestly more for show. I mean, it definitely works at everything, but I displayed it in my trophy room, and I had Wayne sign the box and everything. And,
that's cool.
And with him being who he is, when I say who he is what he's done for the diaphragm industry. Years and years ago, first person to ever make an elk sound with a diaphragm call. I think we've talked a little bit about this. Yeah, I mean, it was toothpaste, the aluminum frames that used to be part of aluminum tubes used to be part of toothpaste. They had aluminum in them, and another guy actually had cut one out to make a turkey call, and they used a condom, and and made that call.
It's one use for them.
Yeah. But it didn't even have tape on it or anything back then. Really? And I don't want to say wrong. I know we're going to have Mark on here, and we'll have him talk a little bit more about it too. But I know that Wayne started playing with it and being, and if you know Wayne at all, he's always thinking, that guy, always thinking. Yeah. And I can remember spending time around him and having him making some, early in the morning, making some funky noises with either his mouth or a diaphragm call to wake everybody up. Right. He's definitely the early bird. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, awesome guy. And the carrier that we got there to keep your diaphragm calls in, that's super handy.
That's really cool.
Yeah, super
cool.
So there's a complete line there that, like I said, if anyone wants to go on there and yes, I am. I know normally we talk a little bit about our sponsors and stuff, but in this situation here, like it says, Season Hunter 20 will get you 20% off, and you'll be happy. I know you'll be happy.
I'm super stoked. We're gonna have calls with our own personalized calls to give away to people and stuff. That'll be cool. I'm stoked.
And we got that red line stuff. We will probably be getting rid of that here in the next couple episodes. Right. So we'll probably put out maybe in the next 2 weeks we'll put out a little clip or something to tell people if they want to participate in the giveaways.
Yeah, there you go. As soon as we get our hands on some of that. How far out are we on the elk calls?
I anticipate this next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's getting close to elk season.
It is.
Probably ought to get them in, huh?
Yeah.
Get them in and out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was Mark's idea to put that on there, which, we, like I said, we totally appreciate them doing. And
well, really, it's got to be their busiest time of year. It's crazy that he was able to even fit that in for us.
Swamped,
I'm super stoked.
The good thing about him is the company that everything's made. It's all made in USA, which is great. Is the tape is made like in their building. The guy that does the tape and everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just kind of put their heads together. And
Where are they based out of?
Montrose. Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
But Wayne originally was from Florida,
Yeah.
and he was in the pest control business.
Okay.
Before that, but yeah, he's been there for a lot of years.
Right.
Wayne Carlton Calls was started back in the early '80s when, like I said, he was the beginning, the man, and where we are today.
So obviously he started that. It was called Wayne Carlton Calls, you
Yeah.
said? And then didn't he sell out at some point, or
Yeah.
how did that work?
Late '80s, late '90s, he sold out to Hunter Specialties.
Okay.
And they kept his face, and they call it the Wayne Carlton series.
Okay.
They still, I'm not for sure. I know he had a certain obligation for many years. I want to say 15.
Okay.
He had an obligation or close to that. Maybe 20, I don't know. But I guess probably 15-ish, yeah. He had an obligation to be their face.
Okay.
And when that obligation was up, and Hunter Specialties, I think, had actually changed hands twice by then.
Gotcha.
From when he originally started, or originally sold. And Mark had been billing calls for years. Mark's a great
Mark's son.
builder. Yes,
Yeah.
Mark's his son. And they decided to do Native by Carlton, and Mark's kind of, for the most part, heading it up. Wayne's kind of the face again.
Sure.
And
Right.
as he'll always be.
Right.
So yeah, in this year, they come out with one of his original vintage or grunt tubes, I should say.
Okay.
Which we have some of those coming for us
cool.
to give a whirl this year.
Yeah.
I think I have one somewhere packed, and with my moving and storage units and
Right.
all that stuff, someday I'll probably find it.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah.
You don't really use grunt tubes too often, do you?
Sometimes. I always got one with me, and there's time and place for obviously everything, and learning to read the animals
Sure.
is such an important thing. And most of the time it's trial and error.
Right. No kidding.
And there's times where I've bugled in just like full rut opening day or the next day. Just screaming. And then a lot of times, if you can kind of sound like a frenzy, a bunch of elk and like a hot cow and
Okay.
cow calls, bugles and everything, that'll get bulls excited.
Okay.
But you never know what the bull's actually thinking, and some it just triggers and some it don't.
That's
So
true.
you gotta kind of play it out and kind of see how the bulls react. And I usually don't start too aggressive, but I know guys who do, and it works.
Yeah.
So, and maybe theirs works more, and I certainly don't know it all.
Right. I feel like the situation will dictate what's going to work and not going to work as well, right? Like, I don't know. Sometimes, like you say, bugles work. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself ever using like more than one call at a time, trying to sound like a bunch of different elk?
Oh yeah.
Or how's that?
Yeah, I've used a handheld one plus a diaphragm just to sound like more, and then throwing your hand around
Right.
to throw your calls around, turn your grunt tube back if you want to sound like a little squealy bull, like a wannabe bull,
Right.
one that thinks he's badass, but he isn't even
Right.
big enough to maybe even have a cow around. But
Yeah.
and
Those sometimes are the easier ones to call in, don't you think?
well, yeah,
Yeah.
they are. Yeah. Especially when there's a dominant bull there, and you got those satellites around. It most of the time doesn't take much to call off a satellite bull with some cow calls,
Right.
especially.
Right.
A lot of times they're afraid to get their butt whooped, so
Yeah.
they may not come and do an aggressive call. But those are the ones who will come in silent too, so you always got to be ready.
Yeah, that's
I've
true.
had this happen, and maybe you, where you're just calling, not really thinking, not ready to shoot,
Yeah.
and one walks in
Yeah.
quietly.
Yeah. I've
And
had
you're
that.
caught with your pants down.
Right.
I've had that happen many times. So I always try,
Yeah.
not always do,
Right.
but always try to be at least semi-ready in case.
That's true. Yeah, that's a
know.
good point. Yeah, I shot a bull a few years ago. No, it's probably been 6 years ago, maybe. That there's a huge herd and a huge herd bull that there's no way we were pulling him off, and we knew that. And but we were in the wide open. But so we saw satellite, pretty nice satellite bull. He's a bigger 5-point bull, and we started calling, and man, because he was just off to the side, and he just came, like I said, didn't say a word. But he came on a string, right, and oh, we set up a decoy too. And when we were calling, and he saw that decoy, he just came right to us. And then we, of course, had the decoy past me. So, and I had we were out in the wide open. There was one sagebrush, of course. I didn't plan that out very well, but anyway, I was able to hide behind that, and he just walked right past me, and I plugged him as he walked by at like 40 yards or something. It was cool.
Nice.
That was fun, yeah. But yeah, you're right. They oftentimes won't say a word on their way. But
yeah, it depends on the pressured area, how pressured the area is too.
Right.
You get I know some of the units, some of the areas, some of the states, where they're real limited tags. It's
a little easier to call them. Yeah, and that's true.
It gets pretty exciting too, because they're not afraid to, where they can be call shy. And certainly the wolves haven't helped for the states, where people are had them introduced in those states. Right. That can shut them up too. So I am an opportunist, when it comes to that. I call when needed.
Right.
But even, this year planning on, I'm going to hunt out of a tree saddle around a wallow. And I totally plan on still throwing out some calf calls and maybe a smaller bugle. Just, sometimes a bugle though will intimidate a bull, but a bigger bull most of the time won't be intimidated. But there's times too, once the bull gets some cows early in season, I think a lot of people look over it and they think that the later season, when they're viewing the classic video you watch or DVD or whatever, they think that's the way it always works. What a lot of people don't realize, and some are on public land, but there are some video series out there that I know that they're paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to go hunt on private ranches, and nothing against that at all.
Right.
But the elk don't have pressure like they do on public land.
Right.
And so when I do watch like YouTube stuff and that type of thing, elk hunting, I do like to watch the public land, those type hunting, just because it's got some pressure. And how many times I've watched them plenty of times where there's been other people there hunting too, and
exactly.
And I like that, because that's reality.
Right. Oh,
that's
100%.
reality. So
yeah, for sure. Even in the good units, right here behind the house is some of the best elk hunting in Idaho for sure.
For sure.
And huge bulls, but I filmed hunts up there, and there are just big bulls running all. I mean, this sounds crazy, but it's true.
There's a lot of big bulls.
A lot of big bulls. But I was filming one particular hunt, and they were just screaming, but we could not. There were so many cows, like they didn't need to leave. Does that make? In my opinion, I don't know if that's actually the case, but we could not get them to come to us.
Yeah, a lot of them
wouldn't leave. They would not leave, even though there were so many, bulls and all that competition. But there were so many cows too that
in a situation like that, I mean, if you can get in super tight and glunk, glunking sound, because that's a dominating sound that happens when they're around other cows a lot. Yeah. And they're being dominant to those cows, and that'll pull. I've had that happen for me before, and they come running and pissed off because you're taking their in their minds, they hear that and they know that you're right on their, right there on the cow.
Okay, that's when they're doing that
most of the time.
So, and then how do you make that sound? Do you use a call, or is that just something you do?
I just use my mouth through a tube and just.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I don't know how good that sounds over this, but it's worked, that's for sure. Some people hit the tube, hit their tube and make a noise. It kind of sounds like it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I kind of like the throaty thing myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm certainly probably no world champion when it comes to glunking, but.
Right. You don't have to be.
No, and that is another thing that people think. They get intimidated by that.
Right.
And think you got to be the best elk caller, and I remember in the early days watching VHS when we could get our hands on one.
Right.
Listen to some of those guys, how bad they are. And, I went to a few elk calling competitions, and I mean, everything's just pristine and clean for the most part,
Sure.
And in reality, I've been out in the woods and heard real elk call and think that's got to be a human. That sucked.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to scare something off. And it turns out to be an elk.
Huh.
So you just never know. And the younger bulls mess up. Their voice is almost like they're going through puberty.
Right.
Yes. You ever
So
heard
you're
of Spike?
saying I have a chance?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you? You've probably experienced like a spike bugle, and it's kind of. Do you almost wonder what the heck that was?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. That's cool.
One of the actual first, the only rifle elk I called was back in the 80s, and it was October 1st is when the season started then, and it was over the counter tag, and we got on some bull tracks. It snowed, and just started following them all day that herd. And we finally caught up close enough, and it quit snowing, and the sun broke, and they lit up. There was like 3 bulls going, and 2 of them sounded good, and then one just did not sound very good. And I told my friend that was with me, Wes, I was like, that's got to be a human back here. And I'm thinking, man, we didn't see no other tracks back here, no one at the trailhead, And he's like, yeah, I don't know. He says it didn't sound good. And then here comes the bull. I mean, and he didn't sound very good. He was like 300-inch bull. Like I said, that's the first and only one I ever shot with a gun, and I was plenty happy, but except for where he killed him.
Yeah. Done that.
Yeah.
No fun.
Yeah, it's always I have always said that I'll get the problem, then worry about it later.
Exactly.
And then you go, oh, man,
yeah.
what did I do?
No.
But yeah, he didn't sound like a bull at all. Like, a real elk. We actually thought somebody had come in another way, maybe on horseback, and was heading, maybe doing a loop or something and going out that way. We didn't know.
Sure.
We were several miles from, I think we were like 4.5, 5 miles from trailhead.
Okay.
And anyway, it turned out to be a bull. So you never know.
Right.
And I personally don't think you can judge an elk by its bugle for sure and say how big he is. Some guys seem to think that.
Right. I agree. Yeah. I'm not that good anyway, I don't think. But
well, yeah, that's true. Maybe they can. Right. Maybe they can score them. I don't know. And kudos to the guys that can figure that out. But I've killed a fair amount of elk, but I always say I don't need a spotting scope unless I'm guiding.
Yeah.
Then I'll let the person see it. But for myself, with my binoculars, yeah, it's got horns. Let's go there.
Exactly. I am exactly the same way. Like, I can tell it's a bull without
True.
binoculars.
Yeah.
Even it's like, that's good enough for me. Let's go.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I am a little bit picky, but yet when it comes down to it, I mean, I do love the meat.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
One elk's going to feed, pretty good.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. What's your I know we talked about this already a little bit about you using the bugle or whatever. If you're not seeing elk, do you use locator calls? Or I know you really love just the sticking with cow and calf calls and that kind of stuff.
I found that, and sometimes I'll use like the handheld ones. I feel like like the green weenie there, the light green one. That's what it's called.
Okay.
It reaches out there.
Okay.
And that's what I liked about that. And I've got the mini mouth there next to it, the orange one, but I also have a loudmouth, which is a bigger version of that.
Okay.
And that one reaches out there good too. And a couple of the other handheld custom ones are ported, like the green weenie is.
Okay.
And I couldn't find I know I swapped out when I was down in Arizona. I still had the one I really like, Red Lava. It's ported, and I had it in my bino harness, and I took it out to swap it for my varmint call because I was javelina hunting. So I know it's in my shop, And
somewhere.
I kind of dug around a little bit for it, but I was like, well, we got a good representation here. And they go on the website, and see all the different ones.
Right.
The Magnaport type thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have several different options.
But I do like that, to reach out there. But I don't blow too hard. I get aggressive when I need to. And that does come from kind of being able to read them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been plenty of times where, you had to turn it up notches to actually get the bulls to come in.
Right.
But I just want a response, and I want to locate. And then I usually want to get in closer before I hammer him if I'm going to hammer him.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I noticed when we were hunting with Eric last year on that rifle tag,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw that bull cross the ridgeline there.
Yeah.
And you really lightly cow called, not very much, and he responded.
Yeah.
It took him a couple of times,
Yeah.
but I was like, man, I couldn't even. So I'm not nearly as experienced as Darrell is with calling and stuff, but it's like I didn't even think the sound would even carry that far. It was so light. That's what I was thinking at the time, but sure as heck, man, it did not take much to get that bull to start coming our way.
And that time of year where we're in October,
Right.
So and a lot of them are done, for the most part.
Sure.
Granted, there is some late cows
Second
that come
cycles.
in. Yeah. Later cycles too. So calls do work during rifle season as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen bulls and heard bulls bugle in December.
Sure. Yeah.
But they're just kind of herd talk.
Right.
So it does happen year round.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of feel that bull out, and so I did a couple of south cow calls, like you said. He finally did respond enough to, for us to. I think we saw him first.
We did see him first, yeah. And then we were just trying to see if we could get him to come our way or whatever.
Yeah, or come and envision where we could get a shot. Because at one point he was going to shoot him. He decided to pass on him.
Exactly.
But I wanted to get a better look at him.
Right.
Yeah, so we were trying to get him out of the trees.
Yep, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was definitely a fun hunt. And I've muzzleloader hunts, a lot of times are earlier in September.
Yeah.
And 1st of October, that type. And those can be a fun experience.
I had that problem on that muzzleloader bull that I shot. It was late. I think the hunt started October 1st, but I was several days into the hunt before I finally shot that bull. But he had a herd. There was no getting him off of that.
Really?
And luckily he was in a spot I was able to sneak in and get a shot at him. But he's not leaving that herd. He probably had 10 or 12 cows, and he was there were a couple of smaller bulls, I guess.
That's probably why you didn't leave them.
But you're probably exactly right. But they had ended up. I don't even remember seeing those when I shot that bull. But earlier in the day, I watched them all day, and they kind of were hanging off the backside there, those bulls. But I don't remember. I think they finally just walked off. So he's just him and those cows.
Earlier in the season, once, especially the smaller bulls, once they get cows, a lot of times they'll run because you got to be right in on them. That glunking I was telling you about, it was a 5x6. I shot actually my recurve. Okay. And I've had it happen a couple of times, but the one I was kind of referring to earlier, I ripped off he bugled, just a whistle.
Okay.
Dummy me, it was season open on a Saturday, and I think this was Sunday, maybe Monday. It was Labor Day weekend, I know that. And so it was hot. Mm-hmm. But he let out just a squeal, which now I know, just kind of herd talk. Man, I threw everything at him that made up stuff, right. In a bugle. And all I heard was feet. And it wasn't running my way.
Oh, geez.
And it was like, I didn't hear him again for like an hour. And he was probably 3/4 to a mile away. And he went through a couple, but he had his bugle, I knew it was him.
Right.
And so I just worked my way to him, and he kept whistling, just whistling, no grunts at all, until I got in close. And when I could see his cows 25 yards away or so, the bull was probably up there 75 or roughly. And I cow called. His cows didn't even look up, which I liked, because you never know what that's going to do. Cows sometimes, it's kind of like Joel talking the other day, you know, they don't want another hussy coming in there and
Right.
taking their bull.
That's true.
Fortunately, like I said, they just kept feeding, but he responded. And then I gave him a little squealy bugle to let him know. And when I did that, he did a full bugle, a grunts with it, another full bugle, and grunts with it.
Wow.
So I knew I pushed a button.
Yeah.
And I did, he started raking a tree, I raked a tree, and then I glunked. And when I glunked, he literally turned and ran down the hill.
Really?
And I knew he knew that I was closer to his cows than he was. So
Gotcha.
he come right out. I think I shot him at 12 or 13 yards.
Really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
with my recurve.
Yeah, that's
pretty
exciting.
But yeah, so those early season ones, that's been my experience. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, Nick, and he was talking. He has a different strategy. You know, they frenzy call a bunch of them, sound like a big herd, all wound up.
Okay.
There again, that'll get them going too if there's enough excitement.
Right.
So, and that can work.
That's true. I've done, Frank and I, a lot of times, we'll be super aggressive just on cow calls and get, bulls to come in.
Yeah.
And that seems to work all right too.
Yeah.
But I like the more stealthy,
I like to get in close enough if I can. But, the good thing about elk is you can make some noise and get away with it.
True.
Anytime, if I do break a stick or whatever, I'll throw out a little cow or calf call.
Yeah, there you
go. Those lost calf sounds are a killer.
Yeah, that's what Joel was talking about. He sounded like he almost always just uses cow or calf calls.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've used that plenty of times.
Yeah.
And I never thought that bulls would actually respond to it, but they do too.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what's the theory behind they'll just because of the lost calf, like they're just going to go try and find it?
Yeah,
it's just like the herd mentality.
I feel like, I believe Joel even said it. It's kind of like, a lost child. Everyone's going to respond to it.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that it makes sense for sure.
Right.
And if it works, sometimes if it works, I don't question it. I'm afraid to question it because,
right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If it works, it works. And
very true.
Yeah. I like I've said before, I get humbled every year. It seems like, hunting in general.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And elk's no different. Elk, I've been humbled plenty of times.
Boy, more often than not. You always worry. It's like, oh man, I screwed that up, and it's like, is this the only opportunity or the last opportunity I'm gonna have? And that did happen to me last year. I screwed up on a bull, and
it turned out to be
the only opportunity I had. Well, actually, I take that back. I did have one other opportunity, and I screwed both of them up. And that's all ended up happening, right? Yeah, dang it. That's how it goes.
It happens.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
I've messed up plenty. But I've always tried to adopt the theory of play it like it is your only opportunity.
Exactly.
It's got to be your only opportunity.
Right?
So you're really cautious and don't make any,
Yeah.
I mean, and here again, a lot of it, like when I was up with Craig up south, that hunt there, I mean,
right.
It almost didn't matter what you did in those bulls. And here again, it was the pressure. The tag he had was an awesome tag. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of tags up there, so there's not as much pressure. And we happened to hit the day.
Right.
If you remember that.
Yeah, that's the one I filmed, right? I mean, I edited for you. Yeah.
Yeah, the vaults and part of the vault series.
Yeah.
And I mean, those things were just screaming all day long.
Yeah, that was
And there's
cool.
obviously hot cows in there.
Sure.
That was a pretty amazing day. I've been in some of those days, in other states too, and that was right up there with them.
Those are fun days.
Yeah.
If you could find those days more often, oh my goodness.
And I remember, years ago, back in the day,
right?
How I could have taken more advantage of those days,
right?
And
Gosh.
I just didn't know enough. Mm-hmm. That if I could have some of those days back, but
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I have one particular day like that I absolutely screwed up, and we had just bulls screaming everywhere. Oh yeah, not all day, but we finally got into them. We heard them, and it was a pretty good trek in there. But man, they were just screaming, and we were able to call in. It was a satellite bull, but he's a nice big 5-point bull, and I just sat up wrong, and he caught me and gone, and then they all took off, and we were done. He
did take him, huh?
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Sometimes, if you do booger one,
you get more chances there, huh? Sometimes you get more chances, when it's like that.
It just depends how bad they're boogered.
That's true.
I usually start, if that happens, I'll try calling a bunch and just try to calm them down enough.
There you go.
But then there's times I was sitting over a water hole years ago, and it was the last day of the season, not really good solid 5-point. Good solid 5-point, and I was hunting with my recurve at the time. It was maybe 13, 15 yards. It just ran out into the pond, chest deep, in the bottom of his chest.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is happening.
Right.
It was probably, they come running in to that water. Like, I'm sitting there and it's quiet. All of a sudden, I just hear all these feet.
Like an antelope?
Yeah.
Like the antelope birds come running in, yeah.
And I think there was 7 or 8, and they just come running in, and he just plowed right in there. All the cows stayed along the edge. And then the calf walks in, or runs in, between me and the bull, so I can't shoot.
Oh, shit.
Like 12 feet. And stands there looking at me, and they're all drinking, and it barked. And I'm trying to stay still, but I'm sure my broadhead, which was closer, was going like that. And the first time it barked, they just kind of looked up a little bit and then put their heads back down. The bull never stopped drinking. He kept drinking because I could see the bull's head from.
Sure.
But the cow's in the way, or the calf's in the way for the shot.
Right.
Anyway, she did it again, and then took off running. When she did, they all got just enough to drink, and were just gone. It happened so quick. It was seconds. Less than a minute. I know it was less than a minute.
Really?
And I stood there like, really? That just all happened, and that was my. It was getting close enough to dark. That was it. It was the last day of the season, so I went home and made a broth and put my tag in there and had a nice soup.
Oh, that sucks. I've had him do that before. We were in elk hunting. You're sitting antelope hunting actually, and the whole freaking. I'll try and remember to post this video because we filmed it all. I don't know. There's 20, 25, 30 elk, whatever, and one really nice bull, and they just came right into the water hole. Nothing we could do. It was fun. It was awesome to film and watch and that kind of stuff. So that part was super cool. But they stayed there for quite a while. We didn't get it any. In fact, actually, let me think about this. I think Frank, it was a long hole. We had 2 blinds set up. I was in one and Frank was in the other one. Okay. And an antelope came in and he shot an antelope while those elk were down there. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spent the night in a blind in Nevada one time, and in the middle of the night. In fact, it happened a couple times at night. And were you with me when I scouted down there? Or not?
I don't think so.
Okay, I think you just went on the hunt with me that one year. Okay, this was another year when in fact, it was a water hole. We were going to go hunt, and it was dry.
Gotcha.
Same water hole.
Okay.
But when I went and scouted, I saw hundreds of cows and small bulls. And I was scouting for antelope, and I found that water hole and decided to put the blind on there. But when I actually slept there the night before opening day, I think it was 2 herds. I know at least 2 herds, maybe some stragglers, but they were making so much noise I hardly got much sleep.
Wow.
And they were right by my blind.
That's awesome.
Within feet of my blind.
Yeah.
The wind was just blowing enough, and I was all scented up and everything. And I figured that they would end up barking and running off because they might smell me, but they never did. And it was kind of cool to listen. Listening to when you can get in cows like that and hear all the different sounds they make. It's right. You can learn some things too.
Yeah, no kidding.
For sure.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you just pay attention to what they're doing and saying. You can learn some stuff. That's a good point.
I do know I talked about this, I believe, on another podcast, how a year that I was being picky, I had several opportunities to shoot bulls, but I was passing them up. My goal was a 6-point that year, but I learned so much, and a lot of it was like the sounds they make and the patterns that they do, and pay attention to all that. There's probably some advice I can give you. Great
advice.
Because those things may come in handy later on.
Exactly.
You hear cow sounds and see it, and the bulls will react to it. Try to emulate those.
100%. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
So,
especially if there's big herds and you're trying to figure out how to pull one off, if you can see what's working.
Yeah.
Like maybe pulls a satellite bull or whatever away from a herd.
I don't know if I've ever talked about this or not, but I know I've told the story. My duck hunting, I don't claim to be by no means no professional duck caller.
Right.
But I get the job done. And I remember I was making my noises and I was killing ducks, blah, blah, blah. But I was at that time, I was only shooting drakes. And I had a hen mallard fly in, and she swam into the decoys, got up on a rock and was just sitting there. And there was a flock coming over. And just before I put the call to my mouth to call, because I knew she was going to fly, she called. She made a call.
Okay.
And they just dove right in.
Really?
And ever since then, that's pretty much my go-to call.
Is that right?
And it was short, sweet, and simple, and they just dove right in.
That's cool.
And they're up there. They weren't like super high, but they were high enough. I mean, they just dove right in. Maybe they saw her. I don't know, but
sure.
But I know it works.
Right.
So same thing with elk. Really no different.
That's a good point. Yeah. Very true.
But anyway, we're getting trail cameras up, and
we're what week about 3 weeks out. Almost a little over 3 weeks, I guess, for the start of the season.
Look at that.
Right. It's starting. Been shooting every day.
I've been shooting a fair amount.
Yeah.
Not like I don't go out there and hammer out 50 arrows or whatever.
Right.
I just do my mantra.
Yep.
Shoot good arrows.
Exactly.
I've been kind of actually limiting it to 12 to 15, and just because I feel good. They're good shots,
Yep.
Occasionally you have one where you let your mind wander, but I'm telling you that. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, in fact, and he bought Joel's online course.
Okay, cool.
And he talked about the mantra, how much it's helped him. Just taking it just gives you that alley to focus.
Yeah.
And it's so simple.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's so simple.
It is, and you're right though. You just mentioned you'll kind of that's when I stop when I'm shooting, is if my mind starts to wander and I can't control it, I'm done. Like I'm not going to shoot anymore because it's pointless, right? And I did that yesterday. I was shooting out to finally went out to 70 yards. And
nice.
Super happy, but I let one shot and I let her go and I knew my mind was wandering, and sure as heck, that's the only crappy shot I had all day.
Did you miss?
I did. Yeah, I was so mad, but. That's when you got to decide. That's when you just quit. You let down that shot. Like Joel always asks you, can you control that? Well, I could have. I should have. I did not.
Yeah.
And I lost a freaking arrow.
Yeah. But you lost it?
I did. There's so many weeds. It's out there somewhere.
Moment of silence for John's lost arrow.
But that's the only one. I've shot, I don't know how many, but, that's what I've decided is, and I've done it before. I mean, yesterday wasn't the first time, but I've always just, I'm done shooting at this point. I'm not going to shoot anymore. And but up to that point, I was shooting awesome.
Where you're good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good.
And then, in fact, I went down in closer, and I started shooting out of my
blind.
Not out of the blind, but out of the chair my blind chair.
Yeah.
Just so
I saw
get
that
used
chair
to.
Out there when I pulled
I had to clean it off. It was a little dusty, but so just to practice shooting out of that. And,
good idea.
Which I feel like sometimes I shoot better out of that anyway. So,
do you?
Yeah. I don't know why, but I've shot out of it lots. I always practice out of the blind chair just because that's my first time of the year usually is sitting out of that chair.
Yeah.
And,
for the fall.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I always try to practice out as much as possible.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I think we got a little bit of talk about there.
I am super excited about our calls we're going to get there.
Yeah.
That's just so awesome for them to do that for us. And,
I've been, I don't know about you, but I've been, my exercise has definitely been with like a pack on and.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. I'm hammering every day.
Yeah.
You just, as seasoned hunters, you have to do that to stay in shape, right? Or you're going to pay the price.
Yeah.
So
I've been trying to keep up on just like stretching, doing some good push-ups, and then in the evenings, and I can take a good walk or hike. And
I'm fortunate here because I have my whole little home gym that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I just
you live far enough out here that it'd be a lot to go into town every day
to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just wouldn't do it.
Pretty much all the gyms are on the north side of town, so you'd have to go all the way up to the front, huh?
No, 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. And that's what I used to do. Well, I've always had this, but you go through phases where you kind of like to go to the gym, and then I like to work. And I have a great home gym. I mean, there's plenty.
You have everything.
I have everything there. Yeah. But, and that's why I built that, over the years. Because I knew, there's times where you just don't feel like going to town to do that stuff, living out of town.
Extra half hour.
Oh, yeah.
In reality.
Plus your workout or whatever,
and if you have to go to work.
Exactly. So, anyway, it saves me time and it keeps me motivated, keeps me going on
Well, you got
stuff.
your little checklist. I see your little calendar of.
Yeah, well, I keep track of all kinds of weird stuff, but I do keep track of how many days I've worked. I do a hash mark. I set a goal, each year of how many days I want to achieve a workout for, and that just keeps me motivated. One year, I decided I was working out every single day for the entire year, and I did that. I made it 371 days before I took a day off.
So. Like when you went on your vacation that year, because I know you go on a yearly vacation. Yep. What'd you do then?
I ran.
Did you?
I just did cardio, but I ran, and it was just a few miles.
Yeah,
but it was. I did something every day.
Yeah.
And the first day, one of the guys decided to run with me, and he was like, "Screw that! I'm not doing that anymore." So I just got up early and ran every morning and got it out of the way, and
kind of cleared your hangover a little bit from the night before.
Yeah.
Was it rough? A couple of days.
Yeah, but I always kept my time, so my pace was fine, honestly. Like
headache or no headache,
right? Exactly. There's always a balance.
Yeah. Right on.
Try not to do that too often. But, anyway. Yeah. No, it's something you got to do. I think as you get older, you definitely got to be. Well, you should always do that.
Yeah.
But
for sure,
keeps you in the mountains longer. So.
Cool. Well, we got a guest coming on next week. We'll talk a little bit more about him next week, and it'll be fun.
And then hopefully we'll have the calls. As soon as we get those, we'll get something out there and let people start figuring out how to get one.
Yeah, we'll do some giveaways. And like I said, we'll pull out the red line stuff and we'll get that.
Yeah.
Give it a nice package out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Cool.
So cool.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Smash the subscribe like we always ask, and like, and
help us out. We appreciate it, man.
Very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, brother.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.